And we are live. Now that's debatable, guys. Hey, guys, thanks for tuning in. Um, I'm live. I got Matt Slick joining us. Give me just one moment. There's a few things I got to make sure. Last week, we had an issue with the audio. It was coming in all like zappy and weird. But
You mean
fortunately,
like
Riverside.
work it like that?
Yeah, you
Is that
got
what you mean? Was doing like that? All right.
yeah, it was doing
We
that.
don't want that. Okay, we don't
Yeah,
want
we
that.
don't want that. But fortunately, Riverside was collecting all of it, and so it got really good audio. So if
All
that
right.
happens this time, I'm going to re-upload the better audio version of it.
All right.
And also, I just sent you that email, Matt.
Thanks, man.
But yeah, man. So as I said, I got Matt Slick on, and actually, man, I am. You had asked me before we had went live. You had asked me if I'm an atheist. Yes, I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
Um, I used to be a Christian. I was a Reformed Christian. I was a presuppositionalist,
Okay.
and so and this is gonna sound like a backhanded insult wrapped up in a compliment, but it's not. I swear. But
All right.
I I used to be a fan.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not because of anything you did. It's
Of
just a
course, it had to
change.
be because of what I did. I
Yeah,
mean, come
right.
on. How could you
It's
not
a
be a
change
fan
of
of me? I
perspective,
mean,
right? Yeah. So yes, it's nothing personal, but I did used to be a fan. I was a pretty big student of Van Til. I used to watch Greg Bonson videos, and I saw him as passing the, I guess, the proverbial torch to you and Saitan, and I. I like I would watch videos of y'all going at atheists, and I enjoyed those debates. I was like impressed with the intellectual curiosity of presuppositionalism, and I didn't really see that a lot in other types of Christian apologetics. I didn't really see the same appreciation for philosophy and other types
okay.
of Christian apologetics. So that's what I was a big fan of.
Okay.
But yes, I am an atheist. I am a materialist. And of course, you're presuppositionalist.
Christian.
Christian. Christian.
I use
Right.
apologetics. I use
Of course,
presupp evidence and
you're many
rationalism.
things.
Yeah.
You're many things. You're American.
Right.
You're a man.
Uh-huh.
You're human. Like, all right.
Annoying.
Yeah. Now, I am no longer a Christian presuppositionalist. I am a presup. I think everyone is. So like as in I take the logical absolutes as presuppositional. But
Okay.
but before I wanted to get your take exactly on what the presuppositional argument against atheism is. But before I do that, could I attempt to straw man it? I mean, I'm sorry, not straw man it, still man it.
Sure. Go for it.
Okay. So presuppositionalism is the idea that you need God to reason. Not you need to believe in God, you need God. For like both atheists and Christians in either belief, they use the Christian God specifically for a reason. When they appeal to logic, when they appeal to reason, when they appeal to the logical absolutes, they are implicitly accepting the Christian God, even atheists. So when an atheist makes any proposition, even when they say something like, there is no God, they are implicitly accepting the thing that they are explicitly rejecting.
Kind
Would
of.
you would you disagree?
Atheists can make rational arguments. The issue here isn't that they can or can't, or be moral or not moral. Can they ground their
Can it?
arguments and ground the logic that they use
Mm-hmm.
from their atheistic perspective? And if you're a materialist, then you've already, no disrespect meant, you've already shot yourself in both feet. But we'll
Mm-hmm.
get to that later.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So
Okay.
even the atheists, they have to appeal to their Christian God for their reason. They do have to do so implicitly.
Ultimately, right?
Right.
Ultimately, right?
Okay. Now, I think like so ways that could falsify that position, as if I could just if I could explain how I can acquire knowledge without reference to the Christian God.
Okay.
But would you agree with that? Be able to would that falsify it?
If you could demonstrate that you can have knowledge and reason apart from the Christian triune God, if you could, using the logic that you presuppose is valid without justifying how you're using it or the grounding of it, it
Hmm.
might be interesting to see if you could. I don't know if you could or not, but
Hmm.
then if you could, perhaps we might grant that it would be a falsification.
Right, and I
It
think
wouldn't be.
another.
It would not be a falsification that God exists, but
Mhm.
the presuppositional approach.
Would another way to falsify it, could it be to show how Christian presuppositionalists are not presupposing God whenever they make their propositions? You
Yeah.
laugh,
uh,
but
okay, go ahead. That never heard that one. That's
I
presuppose
will. I'm
because that's
asking.
exactly what we do.
You think you do that?
Okay, I certainly think I do.
Of
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So first, like, but um, would you care to elaborate on anything that I'm missing about presuppositionalism?
No, it's just the idea that in order to ground your reasoning, you have to have a terminus and the ultimate grounding. And so, what is the terminus? Is it material or immaterial? Is it personal or impersonal? These kinds of things. Then we can get into. Are you familiar with the one and the many issue?
Uh,
Okay.
Somewhat.
Okay.
I,
Well,
I, I
you know,
so I was listening to what's his name, Darth
Dawkins.
Dawkins
Yeah, I know Darth.
mention that.
Yeah.
But do you
It's
care to elaborate on what that a problem is?
it's an ancient problem,
Mm-hmm.
2,500-year-old problem. What is the nature of reality? Is it one thing or many things?
Hmm.
If the ultimate nature of reality is one thing, one substance, one whatever that is, then nothing really can be distinguished because everything is of one substance. What we see as distinguishing elements are really illusory distinguishing elements, and that undermines truth values. This is the short version of it. Okay? I
Hmm.
call it quick and slick. On the other hand,
Okay.
if everything is many, then you have disparate, unrelated essences of different subcategories and categories without a unifying principle between them. And then that means you can't have truth values either. So if you're a materialist, then you fall into the category of one, that the universe is one thing, basically matter and energy. It's the combination because matter and energy are interchangeable. So you would say one thing. And so your materialism would undermine the very nature of being able to recognize um, truth values.
I feel like if all of reality was made of one thing, you could easily solve this problem with emergent properties. Like so,
Emergent,
like in a way, like think like you're familiar with chemistry. Like
yes.
all of the elements are. You could argue that all of the elements are hydrogen, right? Just or you could just say they're all protons, right?
Hmm.
So one proton gets you hydrogen, two gives you helium, three gives you lithium, right? You know, you can just keep going. I don't want to see why you couldn't just say you keep if we just keep stacking the same thing, but in varying quantities, you're going to get different substances. That
Well,
it seems like an
um,
easy thing to explain. I mean, I'm
but
fine
that
with all the reality being essentially just one thing.
emergence doesn't solve the problem of the one and the many. It just says something emerges out of what the essence is. The question isn't emergent properties. The question is what's the ultimate essence. If you have emergent properties, the issue of the problem is that if everything is one, what you might recognize or see as distinctions really is not distinctions. So emergent properties would be the emanations out of the one substance of all existence. So all perceived emergent property distinguishings wouldn't be real. You still have the problem of undermining truth values. This is a serious problem in philosophy, and the Christian Trinity solves it. But if you're going to hold to materialism, not only is materialism self refuting, which I can show you how, but
Okay.
it doesn't solve the problem of the one and the many also.
Okay. I like to have you back on to have the one in the many
Sure.
discussion.
We can do it once or many times. Yeah, we
Yeah.
can do that. That's fine.
So presuppositionalism. So now you talking about like justifying like my knowledge. So say I'm well to start off, I'm a materialist. I'm a methodological materialist or a methodological naturalist type of
Okay.
materialist. And so that is distinct from a metaphysical naturalist.
So mark this down. You're a methodological, excuse me for, I take lots of notes. I have four 27-inch monitors.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
So you can call me a nerd. I won't be insulted. You're a methodological naturalist.
Yes,
Okay.
methodological naturalist. And
Okay. Thank
so
you.
so that is not a position on the fundamental. That's not an ontological position actually. So a methodological naturalist is just what any good scientist is. Like for instance, like I work in the realm of computer science. If for some reason there's a system that's not working, I'm going to think, oh, there's something wrong with the code, there's something wrong with the software, something wrong with the hardware. I'm going to assume a naturalistic problem. I'm not going to think demons, right?
You don't?
Right,
Man, I
right.
would.
I
I
don't.
mean,
The car
especially if
stops
you're.
working. It's cold outside. Hey, maybe the battery. Something's going with the battery. Maybe there's not enough gas. There's not
Oh,
enough resources.
I thought
That
it was
is.
the Anunnaki in the Democrats' office. But
Yeah.
I'm probably wrong.
So,
Actually, I enjoy science. I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I
oh
love
yeah.
science. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I enjoy mechanics. I used to be a computer tech guy. So, yeah, we
So
get
well,
along, I'm sure.
that is the type of materialist I am. So it's not
Right.
about saying that nothing exists but material, but it's about not appealing to non-material as a cause until
Hmm.
I have evidence of that.
Yeah.
So I'm not even saying evidence doesn't exist of it. I don't. Every computer problem I've ever ran into, the issue has always been natural. Like there's never been ghosts, never been demons, never been God. Right? Is we've been able to look
Solve it.
into do science and figure out an issue with
So
it.
you're
And
a
even the things that
philosopher.
yes, it is a philosophy on the nature of science. That is
Yeah.
the
But,
type of materialist I am.
but science is a philosophy. It's a philosophical approach at looking at the natural world.
Well, so there's a philosophy behind science, but I would say science itself is not a philosophy.
So,
There's a philosophy to science, but after you philosophize, now you get to the science part. There's not much philosophy going on, right?
well,
It,
actually, the basis of science, the observation of something, developing a hypothesis,
mhm.
and then developing a methodology to test the hypothesis, success or failure, modification of the hypothesis, then you
That's all
develop a theory.
philosophical.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all philosophical. But what I'm talking about is
That's
like,
right.
but okay, but now when you get to the nature of doing science itself, like you try to figure out, like there's a I don't know, your car isn't working, and you try to figure out what that problem is, right? So you test this. You look, is there gas in the car? You you look at the fuel tank, right? Looking at that fuel
Yeah,
tank, you aren't doing philosophy. You are
right.
looking at something and try to determine the nature of it, right?
Well,
Or
yeah, and that's good. I used to do mechanics. I used to work on cars too.
okay,
Done a lot of stuff. And, as a hardcore Christian, the first thing I always look to is a naturalistic explanation of things.
okay,
But science is based on the assumptions, philosophical assumptions of the universality of the laws of logic
I
and the
agree.
uniformity of nature.
I
And
agree.
it also assumes that the scientists will accurately, honestly represent their findings. That's a philosophical approach. And there has been, doesn't mean science is false when a bunch of stupid guys do bad stuff.
Right.
But, so it's a philosophical thing. And
Yeah,
I
I
grant
agree.
that.
There's a philosophy of
Yeah.
science. I just don't
Yeah.
think science is philosophy.
No, science is a
But
methodology based on philosophy.
I agree. So now, so when we're talking about knowledge, I've w- I presuppose one, reality exists, and two, that reality acts in particular ways, namely according to the logical absolutes: identity, excluded middle, non contradiction. Now, I presuppose those things not because I arrive to a desired result. I presuppose them out of necessity. If I don't presuppose those things, I can't reason. Notice what's missing. God, right? Could you explain to me why I would need a God to know truth by only presupposing that reality exists and follow those fundamental logical absolutes?
I'm not sure I understand what your first premise was, though. I'm trying
So,
to catch up and write things down.
mhm.
So you say what?
Well, there was those four things that I presuppose.
Okay.
I don't know if you would call this a premise. Like this isn't really like a formal argument, but the four things was one was reality, and then the other three were the logical absolutes: identity,
Again,
excluded middle, non-contradiction.
okay. And
And
then
so I think the three are descriptions of the one. So the logical absolutes are descriptions of reality. In reality, a thing is itself. In reality, a thing is or is not. In reality, a thing is not itself. That is how reality behaves. From there, I can know things. I can go into any particular reality and I can assess the proposition. It is true that there either are or there are not monkeys. I know that proposition to be true without reference to a God by only presupposing the logical absolutes.
so let me see if I can understand what you're saying.
Hmm.
So logic, we'll just say logic, reality. Logic is a property of reality,
Yeah, it's no, not a property. It's a description.
a description of reality.
Hmm.
So in other words, you presuppose the universality of the laws of logic in order to have your assumption. So it's circular. You haven't grounded it, you've just stated it.
Well, yeah, I presuppose it. I don't ground
Hmm.
presuppositions. If I could ground it, then there'd be no need to presuppose it.
If you don't ground it, then it's arbitrary.
It's not arbitrary because those I use those four because without them I can't reason. So
Why? What?
it's not like I could swap them with something else. Like I couldn't swap identity with I don't know um ge- general relativity. Like it doesn't work like that. Like these are not arbitrary. The I looked at the minimum things I need to be true in order to reason,
The
and that is
problem
all that I
is,
need.
yeah, but you're not grounding anything. You're just saying it's just the way it is. And that doesn't do anything. So if you ground something, like what's the terminus? What's the basis of which the laws of logic have their universality, applicability,
Hmm.
etc. There is a grounding. If you say there is no need to ground them, they just are, then I can say, well, God just is, and I win the argument. See you later. I'm going to go walk, take care of my cat.
Well,
So
so my
if you don't,
understanding wasn't that I wasn't trying to ground reality. I was trying to ground my knowledge.
but now knowledge is based upon the laws of logic, which you mentioned. You said reality and the three laws. So
Hmm.
just say reality and logic. And so you're finding them related. But the thing is, you don't know what reality is. Okay. And I like talking to you because I can tell you're not to be offended if I say something like, you know what it is. It's nice. Some
13 years
guys are,
army, pretty hard to defend me.
okay,
I'm
well,
used to getting yelled at. Used to yelling at
hey,
people.
well,
So
thanks for your service.
yeah.
Appreciate it. But if you can't ground something, then it doesn't have any terminus by which you can then say that it is true or valid. It becomes arbitrary.
You said what terminus? What does that mean?
The terminus is that which there is nothing greater or nothing equal to. So you have
Okay.
the laws of logic. Well, what are those laws? Are they abstract entities, abstract individual entities? Are they manifestations? Are these
No,
a
no,
property of the universe or
their
what?
description. So reality is my terminus, and the logical absolutes. And I didn't just say logic because there's different types of logic. But I guess for this conversation, now we could just say logic, referring to the three logical absolutes.
Hmm.
So, but logic is a description of how reality behaves. In reality, it is what it is.
But if you say it's a description, you're presupposing the laws in order to describe them. So the law of identity, something is what it is, it's not what it's not. You're
Mhm.
saying I'm presupposing the law of identity in order to describe what something is. That ball is not that horse, okay? And or that chair, I use chairs and trees. The chair
Mhm.
is not the tree. And so you're not grounding anything. You're just assuming them. What you've
No,
done,
so no, I
you,
wouldn't ground it. So
would it?
reality is
Okay.
determinist. Is the so this determinist. It's like God supposedly is your determinist. We're going to get into that later. It is. It is not. However, but it's like God is your terminus. Reality is my terminus. I don't go any further. Now think about this. If I was to ground reality, ask yourself, the grounding of reality, is that thing real? If so, then it's by definition part of reality, which means you explain nothing. You just said reality, the foundation for reality is another part of reality. Well, obviously that's the case. We can just see that like work out in with our own eyes, right? I'm real, and there are other real things that must be for me to be here, right? So reality itself couldn't have a grounding. It seemed it would be a contradiction.
Um, there's problems. You said reality is your terminus, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Well, you haven't explained where reality comes from or what its nature is. And stopping at what reality is doesn't explain why reality exists or why it's uniform or knowable. And so all you're doing is you're just saying it just is. But that doesn't ground anything. You're just stating it. And logically speaking, logic then is just being descriptive. But you're describing without what you're assuming. So your circularity is there, uh, ad infinitum. You're going back in a circle. You're not grounding anything. You're just saying, no offense,
You
mate. You're just saying it is because I say it is. It's
you
not
talked
working.
about the cause of reality. Let's talk about that one. How could reality have a cause?
That's
If
just
the cause, whatever the thing that caused reality, if it's real, then it's part of reality, which means nothing was explained.
have to define what reality is first.
Reality is that which is.
From your perspective, the reality is consists of the material world of matter and energy.
No, that is false. I am a methodological naturalist,
Okay.
not a metaphysical naturalist.
Okay.
There
So
there
what is
could
your
be things that are not physical that exist. They would
okay?
also be part of reality.
Like the laws of logic?
So logic is not part of reality. Logic is a description of reality. Just like
Okay.
speed isn't part of a car. Speed is
Okay.
a description of how a car moves through space.
So logic is a description of reality.
Hmm.
Okay. Whose description?
So anyone who makes any sort of intelligent statement about reality is going to be part of their description.
Yeah, but whose description? Your description of reality would be different than mine. So my wife, but she passed away 6 months ago, but my wife was obviously the most beautiful woman on the
Mhm.
planet. Okay. Okay.
Right.
So, yeah. And so, my description of reality doesn't necessarily match yours. So which one's correct?
Okay, well, we're talking about the fundamental nature of reality, right? Now, I mean, I could say like my wife's hot too. I mean, obviously those are subjective things,
Hmm.
right? So we can have different perspectives on that. But when it comes to the the minimum things that we need to reason, those are all going to be the same things. Reality needs to exist, and it needs to behave in those three ways. From there, you can make true things. Like, okay, think about this: the proposition that I gave earlier, the true dichotomy. It is true that either monkeys do or do not exist. How could that be false?
You're presupposing the validity of LEM, law of excluded middle, when you say that.
Right. No. So
Yeah.
I know what I'm presupposing, but what I'm asking is, how could that be false? How would the absence of a God make that proposition not true?
If the God did not exist, nothing would exist.
Is that true?
Yes.
Then you have truth without God, don't you?
And what?
You have truth without God. You
No.
said you said if God doesn't exist, nothing would exist. So let's say there's no God, nothing exists. If it's true that nothing exists, you have truth without God.
No, because what you're doing is you're putting the cart before the horse here. If nothing exists, then truth would not exist either. Nothing is
No,
what
no.
rocks think
If
of.
truth didn't exist, then nothing could exist without the
No, no,
God,
no, no, no.
because there wouldn't be. It wouldn't be
No,
true.
no. No, truth requires a mind, a truth statement. I'm talking to you, you're talking to me. All
Right.
right. So that's a truth statement. Now you can go with what's called the correspondence theory, which has its problems, but truth is it. But if nothing exists, then no statements can be made and no truth can exist because nothing is what rocks think of. Nothing. So what you're doing is you're not understanding that with
Oh,
truth,
okay. I see what you're saying. So, like, truth is a property of a proposition, which could only come from a mind. If there's no minds, no propositions can be made. So there's no truth.
there you
Got you.
go.
Okay. So let's say there's no God. In reality, there's no God, and I make the statement: there, it is true that there either are or there are not monkeys. Would that be false? Would that be
It,
not true?
it would be a non sequitur because it would not logically follow that if there is no God, that you could have a statement being made outside of his existence because he's the terminus. Without the terminus, we can have no logic because logic is an invariant, absolute, abstract entity and it requires a mind because that's what their basis is. So to say that we would have a truth statement that's an absolute, you're then presupposing it can exist without a mind, but you haven't established that that's the case. You're just presupposing it, which is what trib. Can I call you trib for short?
Yeah, yeah, trip. You can say trip for short. That means something weird in on the
Trib.
internet. I
It
don't
does. I don't
understand.
know. I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
I
So
don't know. I mean, I'm almost
okay,
70. I'm out
you
of
can
it.
say
Okay.
trip, but it means a pretty sexually explicit term. That's what. But that's
Oh
why I
well,
say
I don't want
that's why I
to do
say
that.
triple A. Okay,
I don't want to do that.
all right.
So
But we can say trip. Hey man,
no, I'm not going
to
to
the
do
pure,
that,
all
man.
things are pure, right?
No, that's go. I don't know what your real name is. I don't. Is that your real name?
No, it's not. It's
Okay.
not my real name.
All right.
Joshua.
Well, Matt Slick is my real name for those who don't know. Anyway, I'll just say, hey, you dude, or doofus. How about
Right.
doofus? That works. I answer to that a lot. What you're doing is you're just asserting things. You're not grounding anything.
No,
And
no, no, no.
so,
So, well, I'm asserting. So, like, I take reality and illogical absolutes. I take those as axiomatic. That is how I ground my reasoning. That is my terminus. There's nowhere else. So just like I could you talk about God as a terminus. I say, hey, but you're not grounding God. You're not explaining the cause of God. Well, that's the point of a terminus, right? That there is no further grounding. You don't go any deeper.
do you
Otherwise, it's not a
agree?
terminus.
Do you think a terminus must be self-existent, necessary, and able to ground everything?
Uh, self-existent. I guess so. When you say self-existent, so you're meaning it depends on nothing else for its existence.
It's a C
Yes,
has us. It's a C. Okay, I'll say it is. I'll say if
a
you say
saying.
the if, so the universe is reality, right?
Granted. Yep.
Okay, then you have a problem because the laws of thermodynamics state that
Oh no
if
no
the
no no. I'm sorry. I maybe I spoke too soon. So when you said the universe, you're talking about our local presentation of space time. When I, so no, there could be something outside the universe, and that would also be part of reality.
oh yeah, well, we agree. It's called God.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about this. So you had said so God grounds reality. Is that your proposition?
Well, before we get to that,
Hmm?
I'm still looking at yours. Grounding reason in reality
Okay.
only works if reality is a kind of thing that can ground reason. So, can you demonstrate how reality grounds reasoning?
So reasoning in general, I can demonstrate that by accepting the logical absolutes as axiomatic,
The
right? So
laws
I
of
just
logic
accept them as axioms, as presuppositions.
are
From there, I
just
can
true.
I can ground my reasoning. Now, if you're asking, could I ground the logical absolutes, or could I ground reality? No, that's determinist. It That's the point of the terminus.
Um, an axiom is a starting assumption, right? Starting
Yes.
position, right?
Yes.
So you're just assuming that that in my notes here that the laws of logic are true and axiomatic, right?
It's not
Okay.
it's not an assumption. It is an axiom, which is something like an assumption is something you just accept true without proof, right? An axiom or presupposition is something deeper. It's it's something that must be accepted for you to move forward.
But
So
saying they're axiomatic doesn't ground them.
it's remember that's the terminus,
But
your
you're
word
just
terminus.
yeah, but
So
you're just saying
I
it's a
do not
terminus.
ground my term. Do you ground your terminus?
Yes,
Isn't your terminus God?
yes.
Okay, how do you ground God?
He is self-revelation, revelatory in Psalm 90, verse 2, from everlasting to everlasting, he is God. He also is personal and one and many. So when you understand the Trinitarian revelation of who God is, then he is the universal abstract mind. Then the laws of logic, which are universal abstract entities, proceed from or grounded in his mind. The laws of universality and particular manifestations of universals we can get into also are grounded in him because he is the one in the many. And the problem of the one in the many disappears with that. Because if you have one, the concept like the universality of treeness and particular manifestations of trees, how do you ground the universality of the concept of treeness, which is an abstraction? And
Uh,
then you need a personal mind to do this. If you say the universe is the terminus and it's impersonal, then you're saying that the universe is what's grounding personal abstract entities, which are the laws of logic, because they require minds to work and to exist.
okay, there was a lot said there, and I wasn't follow. I didn't understand those connections. There was things that I thought were just
Just
gaps.
trust me. My
Okay,
name's
all right.
Slick. Just believe what I say because
Okay. Wait,
I'm Reverend Slick.
you said okay. You said for you think you started off by saying like God, you ground God, and then you said he's grounded because he's self-revelatory. That sounds like epistemology, but we're talking about ontology. Epistemology will come later. Like first, you would need to ground things before you could ever say something is self-revelatory. And
What we
and
do,
then another issue that I have with that, I think you pointed out a new problem, because in order for him to be self-revelatory, you would at first need to justify your own reasoning faculties,
well, we haven't
because
got
you
quite
wouldn't
there.
even know that the revelation is actually from God.
Well, we have ways of getting it. I can give you Bible studies for that. We can go through that.
Okay.
But why is the laws of logic the necessary starting point? You haven't grounded that. You just said it is.
Right. So because any proposition that I make requires those to be true. So if I reject any of those, anything that I say is now incoherent. Like if, for instance, I say there is no law of identity, right? Not only would that statement make no sense, because if there's no law of identity, if the law of identity is false, then what did I falsify? The law of identity isn't the law of identity. But
Yeah,
more than that, I can't even say Matt Slick's on the show, because Matt Slick isn't Matt Slick. It's somebody else, and he's not that either. Do you see what I'm saying? Like I run into all types of problems. I cannot make coherent statements. I cannot make any intelligible statement without assuming those. And I'm sorry, without
right.
accepting those as axioms.
That's right. And we agree that you must assume them. What is the grounding for the validity of their assumption?
I
So
take
you,
back assuming. Like it is not an assumption. It's
it's
something
pretty simple.
deeper than that. Like it's not something I'm just accepting. I have to out of necessity. I'm
Oh,
sorry, but
then
go
that
ahead.
would be the law of God written on your heart, knowing that you're made in the image of God, whether you accept Him or not. That's why you would know that. But universals, the laws of logic, require grounding. You cannot derive universal requirements from particular observations. The problem here, no disrespect meant, but what you're doing, what I would think you're doing,
Hmm.
all right, is that you are devising out of your own observations epistemologically, which is empiricism. So what you're doing is deriving empiricistic knowledge, epistemological grounding based on your observations, which you can't ground those as being right to begin with. So so far you have no way at all to ground anything. You just make assertions. You're saying this is just the way it is, but you haven't said why it is the way it is. You say it just is. So if the laws of logic just are, but they don't have any reason for their existence because they're abstractions. Let me explain something.
Hmm.
So here, hold on. Okay, here's my phone. Okay, it's one of those folding phones.
Yep.
So
I'm
it has
taking notes. while you're talking.
Okay.
I'm not typing, talking to someone
Yeah.
else. I am taking notes. That's why I'm
Okay. I
typing.
always take notes when people are talking.
Okay.
So this has characteristics and properties, darkness and weight and mass, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can do that with all kinds of objects, all right? And so properties of anything related to the physical universe are measurable. The laws of logic are not measurable. You can't weigh them, you can't put them in a jar and things like that. So they are not of the physical world, they're of a different, let's just say, basis, a different ontos, okay? Not physically based. So if the universe didn't exist, their existence is not dependent on the universe, so therefore we could not say the universe didn't exist, that therefore they don't exist. Because what we're talking about here is these universal laws are here. Like if I say to you, what's 1 plus 1? 2.
It's two.
You okay, very good.
Analytically. Yeah.
Analytically, right? Because you assume the validity, the universality, the concept of one and
Mm-hmm.
of plusness and equality and summation, and you understand these universals, which are identical in your mind and my mind. Why are they identical in your mind and my mind? Because if we're the products of evolution, my brain chemistry says you're wrong, therefore I win. But that's not a grounding for anything. So what we're doing in methodological naturalism is problematic in that it cannot ground the universals which govern the material realm. These universal laws are something other than what they are related to the physical sense. So therefore we have to ask, what is the grounding of those things? Because it cannot be the physical reality that does that. As you said earlier, there may be a reality beyond the reality that we're aware of, and that's a fair thing to say. But if it is, and if the universals are grounded there, then that which is beyond the physical realm must have the properties sufficient to ground universal abstract entities like treeness, roundness, prettiness, two-ness. These are abstractions that occur in minds, never under rocks behind trees. So the terminus beyond the universe, and of which these universals occur, must have the necessary ability to ground universal abstract entities. Logically, it would be a universal abstract mind.
Do you think treeness exists?
Yes,
Okay. All right. So I strongly disagree. There is no such thing as treeness. There are trees, and when we say treeness, we're talking about a abstract, a concept, which is really a set of minimum properties that will constitute a tree.
but what
But
you're
there is,
doing,
there is no such thing as that. There are trees. Now,
um, but if you say there's no such thing as treeness, then you can't
mhm,
recognize what trees are.
because you
Treeness is
could.
an abstraction.
Well, yeah, it's an abstraction,
Yeah.
but that abstracts don't exist. Only like concrete things exist. Like
So you're a
unless like
nominalist.
are you a Platonist? Do you think there's some realm? Is there a Matt Slickness? Is there a
Oh
Tribulanus?
yeah, there's
Okay.
definitely, yes, there is. And my wife would, she would rub her forehead while talking to you about it like this. But yes, so are you a nominalist?
uh,
Denying universal categories have real
so
existence?
so it depends what you mean by they exist. So
But you
the
have a problem.
they do not say the categories do not occupy space time. The categories cannot interact with real things.
But
Like
you're,
a tree exists, a rock can interact with a tree. Rockness cannot interact with a tree.
but to say treeness doesn't exist is a self-refuting statement because you're saying there's a universal abstract truth that of negation of treeness, and you're saying it's universally true, which means you are presupposing a position contradictory to the statement treeness does not exist, which is a universal. Well, you have a universal that is saying treeness doesn't exist any place, any time. That's a universal truth. So you're contradicting yourself.
Can real things interact with other real things?
Yep.
What can treeness interact with?
Treeness doesn't interact. It's not necessity.
There you go.
That,
Then it's not a real thing.
well, no, no,
Treeness
but no.
cannot interact with any real thing.
Yeah, but what you've done is you've said that real thing must be the category by which we can understand actuality. Is the concept of the number two a real thing?
No.
Then how is it you know it and I know it?
We know it analytically.
Ah,
There
so
are things that we can
okay,
describe with two, but
okay.
there is no two.
So let's do this. Let's do a little
That's why you had
exercise
said
here.
you had to ask me
Okay,
if 1 plus 1 is 2. I said analytically because you were talking about the
yeah, that's
correspondence
right.
theory of truth, which it doesn't correspond to
Correspondence theory
reality.
has its weaknesses because you don't know what reality is by which you can say that statements are true, and it's just an assertion that that truth is what corresponds to reality. I haven't defined what reality is nor what truth is, so
Right,
it's
but
a presuppositional. Yeah,
there are minimum
but
things
let's
about reality that I know to be true. Like for instance, it is true
how,
that either monkeys do or do not exist.
yeah, but my understanding of what a monkey would be could be different than yours.
It doesn't matter what the understanding is. It is
Yes, it
true.
does.
No. Matt, listen. I said it is true that either monkeys do or do not exist. It
Whatever
does
monkeys
not
are.
matter what you think a monkey is. That proposition is necessarily. I gave you a true dichotomy that
Okay,
cannot be
that's in
false.
that sense, yes. If you say it's a true dichotomy, it's either the case that A exists or it's not the case that A exists. That's
Hmm.
a true dichotomy. But here's the thing. Let's get back to the number two, for example.
Hmm.
Two is not dependent on your mind or my mind for its actuality or truth value. Would you agree?
Two does not have any actuality.
It not
So
depend
yes, I
on
agree. It's not dependent on my mind for actuality. It
for
cannot have
for
actuality.
its
There is
truth
no
value.
two.
Okay, that you're nominalist. That's called nominalism. Okay,
Okay.
okay, that's what that is.
I
Is
wear
that there
I
are
wear
no
the
real
label.
essences even of categories. So what you're denying is categories:
Well,
male, female, cat, dog. So, and if you're a nominalist, there are no real categories. Everything's of one substance. You're back to the one in the many problem where everything is just one thing and you can't ground distinctions, nor can you ground the laws of logic as universal abstract entities with distinct occurrences.
okay, maybe okay, hold on. So I am not denying the existence of, I am not denying the existence of categories in all sense. I am saying they do not exist in actuality. They exist analytically. Like there is no you cannot make a synthetic proposition about two. You can make synthetic propositions about two things: two apples, two oranges, two Matt Slicks. You can't make one about two. That two cannot interact with real things, which is a good clue
I don't
of to
know.
whether or not it is real.
I
It
don't know.
can't. Real things can interact with reality. Two
But does it
can't.
interact with your mind? You have the concept of two, you can think about it. So then it has a
I,
relation property with your mind.
I, I mean, I can think about a lot of things. I can think about a pink horse. I can think about
That's
Matt.
right.
I can think about
Fly.
an atheist Matt Slick. Like
Oh man. Oh
yeah,
now you're getting
I
into
thought about it.
sci-fi.
Oh, it's
Now,
real, right?
well, I used to
Yeah.
be an
Okay.
atheist. I used to be an atheist until something happened. Yeah. But yeah, I used to be an atheist agnostic. And I used to study in high school the thorium fuel cycle for fun.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh man, complete nerd. Absolute complete nerd. So you're a nominalist, which means categories and concepts have no actuality. But if you say that, then the idea of two-ness, you say cannot interact with your mind, then from whence is the concept of two occurring in your mind?
Well, it's occurring as an abstract. Like so, like when I think of two, I'm gonna think I can either think of the Arabic numeral two, or I can think of actual objects in pairs. That is it. But I cannot think of two outside of that. Like I could think of two apples, two horses. I could think of the Arabic numeral, the representation
Right.
as two, but I could not think of actual two. There is no such thing as that.
Well, you're making another assertion without grounding. So
Well,
in the problems with nominalism, I have my notes here. I'd open up another file for this.
okay.
Denying universals in nominalism means denying everything that transcends our experiences. Therefore, there are no absolute truths. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't say
So
that.
okay, good. Then
There are absolute truths.
okay, good, good, good,
Yeah.
good, good, good. So then you wouldn't be a nominalist.
No.
You're
So
something else.
I gave you some absolute truths. That was my terminus that I gave you at the beginning.
Okay.
Reality and those three logical absolutes. Those
Okay.
are absolute truths.
But you didn't ground them. You just said it. You just stated it. So I'm going to
Right.
do the same thing you're doing.
That's
God
the terminus.
exists. The Christian Trinitarian God exists because it's necessary.
Okay. So is God God?
That's tautologist. Yes.
It is. Yeah. I mean, the law of identity is a tautology, right? So
I don't know if it is or not.
A is A. A
It's a
thing.
statement, but I don't know if
A
it's
thing
tautology. But
is
anyway,
itself.
but yeah, it is what it is, not what
Hmm.
it's not. It's just
Now,
the first law.
so if things are not what they are, could God be God?
That would be a non sequitur because
No,
it
it's
would
a question. There's no
imply.
non. I didn't make no. That's not a non sequitur. I didn't make an argument. That was a question. If things are not what they are, could God be God?
It's a non sequitur because to say that if things
It's not a non
are
sequitur.
not, could God be God? The Christian Trinitarian God's a necessary precondition for all intelligibility. So the statement that you're making presupposes the necessity, the universality of the laws of logic, which then you say aren't true, which negates the foundation of them, and it doesn't work for us.
Okay, not from my understanding of a non sequitur is when a conclusion does not follow from the premises. I'm not
Yeah,
making an argument. I am just asking a question.
yeah, that's part of it,
Like,
part of what it is.
right. So like it.
Yeah.
So if the law. Okay. So if A is not A, can God be God?
It's not an issue. No, because God is not subject to these laws that then define him if a law exists.
So he's not subject to the law of identity.
No,
Then he's not himself.
no, it's not it. That's not the
No,
Christian perspective.
God. No, God. How could God? If things are not what they are, if things are not what they are, then God isn't God. So remember, A is A.
I understand
That's
what you're saying.
that's a placeholder, and you could put anything there.
I understand. I'm just saying that
Could God not be himself?
no, it's impossible for God not to be what he is, but the laws of
Mhm.
logic are not above him. They're part of his nature.
But you said no, no, no. Okay, so the laws of so the laws of logic require God to exist.
No. Oh, wait. How do you mean predicate nominative here? So you mean the laws of logic, their existence can only be grounded by the existence of God?
Hmm.
That I would say yes to. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you okay when you say that the laws of logic are the laws of logic God?
No, they are
Okay.
not God.
All
They're
right.
not equal to him.
The laws of logic are not God because the laws of logic are the laws of logic,
The
and
law,
God is
yeah,
God.
yeah, but the laws of logic, we could say
Hmm.
are impersonal abstract entities.
Do you
We could
do you
say
not
that for now, but that's
then
not God.
do you not see how by saying that you are presupposing the law of identity? Because
In order to
you said the God is a prerequisite for the laws of logic. So
well,
what is the prerequisite?
God, but we all
No, no,
make
no, no. What? I'm sorry. What?
we all make assumptions when we're discussing. We all presuppose certain concepts like the law of identity. You'll presuppose it, I'll presuppose it.
I
And
agree.
and so we have to do this because we can't validate every single thought, everything, everywhere.
I
That's not the
agree.
problem. Circularity in that sense is not a problem. The problem is which world you can ground and validate those assumptions to begin with. So if I assume the universality of the law of logic, I can do so by positing the Christian triune God as a necessary precondition for intelligibility, where if you were to say the law of logic is grounded in reality, I would then say, well, what is reality? And if you can't describe it knowingly, you can't say that it's grounded in that.
So reality is that which is. It is the set of all real things. If it's real, it's real. That is
Then that
all.
then that
That is
includes
reality.
God, doesn't it? Then reality includes God.
So it could if God was real, that would include God, which is my point that I was making that I was going to try to make at the beginning. Right? You think you're presupposing God, you are not. You are presupposing the things I am presupposing. In order
Uh,
for God to exist, there has to be a reality. God cannot be real unless there's a reality for him to be real in.
just a slight correction, just for information. I don't presuppose him. Something happened. If I went from atheist to devout believer within seconds, so I don't presuppose him.
Okay.
Uh, I've encountered him. I'm not trying to get too mystical or weird,
Okay.
and have you exegete my experience. I don't offer this as a proof, but I just know that logically, apologetically reasoning goes that the grounding needs a terminus, and you have to have a terminus that is capable of grounding. If you're going to say the laws of logic, which are based upon the mind, they don't occur in rocks and behind trees. You can't take pictures of them. They're not consistent of properties related to the physical realm, so therefore they're independent of the physical realm. The physical realm, if we say, and this is where we just get into a little bit of speculation, if we were to, in different levels of assumptions, if we were to say, hey, the universe is only physical and energy. If we said that, then we have a problem grounding logic. If you're to say, well, it's that plus the unknown, well, then the unknown becomes just an escape parachute for anything and everything we just don't know. And that's not how you ground anything either, because it means the grounding is in an area we don't have any knowledge of. That's not grounding, so it's insufficient. The Christian can ground the laws of logic as existing in the universal mind of God, and this is a precondition for intelligibility, which we can then say existence, morality, and rationality can be grounded in Him. But as a
But when you,
materialist, naturalist, you can't do that, because if you're a materialist naturalist, that position refutes itself.
I'm a metaphysical naturalist.
Okay.
Metaphysical
I'm
naturalist of
trying
the
to get you to
materialist.
admit to something so I can trap you. That's what I'm trying to do. All right. I'm tangling the carrot out there. You're not biting on it. All right.
I,
So,
I was a huge pre-sup. I studied you for a long time. It's been pretty
uh-huh.
hard.
Yeah, I get it. But I do want to know. Well, anyway, well, that's okay.
I, so you had said, it sounded like you said at one point that God grounds reality.
Yes.
Okay, how
I'm
could?
going to say the physical, and let me narrow it. Just sorry for interrupting.
Mhm.
The physical universe. Let's just say that. Okay.
Okay, now when I
Okay.
say reality, I'm not talking about the physical universe. It could be the case that there is nothing that exists outside the physical universe. If so, that would be reality. But I am not saying that. I'm saying anything that's real. If there is a outside the physical universe, I'd be okay with that. That would be real. Like for instance, uh, heaven and hell, right? Those are outside the physical universe. Well, it depends on your type of the type of theology, um, one may have. But I believe that heaven and hell was outside the physical universe. I don't think you could like dig and get to hell. Now, the
Maybe they
laws,
are. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're located someplace. I don't know.
right?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I so if they were supernatural, the laws of logic would still apply to those things because it's reality. Now, those things will also be included in reality. If there was no, so then when we talk, if we analyze the proposition, God grounds reality. How could God exist if there's no reality?
Well, now we have to define what reality is. Okay.
That which is
Yeah. Well, then if that's
is
what
real
is,
things.
but if just to say that's what is doesn't do anything. That's saying what is reality? That which is. Well, what is that which is? That's reality. It's circular and it's
So,
meaningless.
all right. So I could say for reality, I could say a local presentation of space time, and there is nothing that exists outside of that. I don't think. Well, I know that I can't justify that.
Okay.
So I'm saying real things. So anything that is real and would be anything that's real will be capable of interacting with reality. For it, so if God is real, he could interact with real things. Like he could interact with me or he could touch my soul or whatever, right? Okay. Now, if there is so if there is no reality, how could there be a God? Because what we're saying is nothing is real, and also saying God is real at the same time. You're making contradictory statements.
No,
Reality has to ground God. There has to be a reality for God to exist in. Therefore,
reality
reality
has
is
to
the
ground
foundation.
God. Oh, okay.
Yes.
That assumes that reality has a beginning. Okay, it has
No.
an ontos. Okay,
No, I don't think
well,
reality has a beginning. I don't because
okay,
I don't think it could have a cause. I think reality just is. If
but
it had a beginning, whatever caused it to start, that would also be part of reality, which means that's not the beginning. I
it
don't.
seems to me, it seems to me, in my notes, I take lots of notes,
Mhm.
and it seems to be committing a category error by
Okay.
subjecting an ultimate uncaused being to the reality of the universe.
I wouldn't call the universe a being.
No, to the reality of the universe. The being
Mhm.
you're saying is subject and dependent upon or exists because of reality independent of him. But that would, by definition, not be the Christian God. So you wouldn't be arguing the Christian God.
Well, okay, so then I would say that by definition, the Christian God can't exist because if the Christian God is defined as that which uh, is the foundation of reality, then that can't
Yeah,
exist. That
but we
you're
have to define what
describing a
reality.
contradiction.
Uh, well, what is this? We need to do this at this point.
Yeah.
Give me. I'm going to write this down. Tribole says reality is quote fingers on the keyboard. What's reality? What
What
is
is
it?
reality? So
Yeah,
reality is that which is that.
that's not saying it's not saying anything.
Well, okay. So I'm trying. So here's the thing. There's a bunch of things in reality. They do a bunch of different things. And what I have to do is give you a common denominator that includes all of those. So the definition is going to be really basic, right?
Yeah, but it's nothing. It's a useless definition. So reality is what is. Well, what is? That's reality.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Well, what is
Okay.
reality? It's just what is. Well, what
Okay.
is
So
reality? Well, how do
no,
you know what it is? I don't. It's just what it is. It doesn't
no, no.
make any sense.
So well, no. It makes sense. But
No,
think
it
about
does
this.
not.
Think about, okay, the problem. Okay, you're asking for a very specific definition that includes everything. And when we talk about everything, everything is really broad. Give me. Think about everything that exists in our local presentation of space time. Literally everything. Can you give me one definition of all those things
Of
that would
what
include
reality is,
everything?
I can only say in the
Everything
fit.
from a black hole to a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I would just say reality is that which is constituted in the space-time continuum of both physical and energies and their varying forms from them. That had a beginning.
Okay, but now if you're saying something had a beginning, that thing that caused is to begin,
There you
wouldn't that
go.
also be real?
No, that would be the cause. That would be the thing that caused reality. If I said it
No,
was our
the cause.
physical universe, and you said local space-time, which is the physical realm of the universe that we're talking about.
Right. So what I gave you was an easier task than what you're asking. Right. When you say when you're asking me, I'm sorry. When you say the cause of reality, the cause, is it real? Is the cause of reality real?
If a reality had a cause, then yes, it would be real, logically necessary.
Well, you think reality did have a cause. The cause would be God, right?
No, no. See, when we see your definition of reality has no meaning to it. Okay. Now, when you say
Uh,
that it's space-time, I think is what you said. That's the most precise you've gotten to,
To
right?
exist. To be real means to exist.
Well, then God exists. That's real.
Okay, so then God is contingent upon reality. If he's real, he
No,
needs reality to
no.
exist. He
If
in order
if
to exist, he needs a plane of
no,
existence
you
to
contradicted
occupy.
yourself. If reality is just what is and God just is, then that's he's part. He's
He's
real.
part of reality, but you
Then the
need these sets. So, but God
but
is a
hold on.
member of a set of real things.
No, now
You
you're
need
believing in
that
universal
set to.
categories.
You need that set.
Now you have a universal category? I thought you're a nominalist at heart, because now you're saying that there's a universal category of God in which a subset occurs, which deals with what's called the one and the many problem, and now you're taking those categories, which are universal abstract entities. So now you've got a problem because you're borrowing from my worldview, because all
So can I
categories,
jump in real quick? Sorry, I'm new. My name's Fasad.
It's my
I'm
co-host.
co-host. I'm late-ish, but I've been listening for 99% of this. Since you want a hard definition of reality, I'd like to just venture a definition for you and let you chew on it. The set of all things.
okay, that's tautologist, because what's reality? A set of all things. What is a set of all things? Reality.
I
That doesn't
mean,
help.
there's no denying there's a tautology involved. When you ask what is everything that could possibly exist, does exist, would exist in any way, shape, or form, you're going to get a tautology. That is
Okay.
the nature of reality itself. When you say something is that it is, you're using the law of identity. So, can I ask a question? Are you a pantheist? I'm going to assume no.
Like
Correct.
is all of
Okay.
reality
So,
God?
no, but oh, no, Triple A, stop! I don't want
Okay.
you going down that road.
All right.
Because you're going to go down a different road that I don't want you down.
Okay.
Your answer is no, you're not a pantheist. So you recognize God as a distinct thing from something else.
Yeah.
Okay, that is needing the first law of logic. That is a precondition to get to such a deterministic state.
Wait, you're not making any sense. Rephrase that.
But in order for God to be distinct from anything else, you must have the laws of logic. Otherwise, God is everything, or there is no distinction between God and anything else because identity doesn't exist. There is no way to distinguish any one thing from anything else because there is no identity.
Okay,
There's
I'm
no
trying
way
to
for you to identify God if there is no identity.
I'm trying to understand your argument. It's not making any sense to me.
Okay, so you want your contingency as a presuppositionalist is that God is the necessary precondition for all things.
For
I'm
intelligibility, yes.
Sure. I'm saying in order for anything to exist, including your intelligibility or your definition of God, you must use the laws of logic, including identity. Otherwise, identity, which determines something is
Ah,
distinct from something else,
oh,
is
okay.
not.
Now I see
Therefore,
your.
your definition of God and your God is contingent upon the laws of logic. You must use identity to distinguish it from something else.
Let me know when you're done.
I'm done. Go ahead.
You're placing a prior standard above God, and that logic is not a separate entity. You're
So
making a
God is
mistake.
logic.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I would prefer to talk to AAA because he's not rude like you are.
How am I rude?
Guys. All right.
How is that
Okay.
rude? Because
Hold
you
on.
don't like my question?
No,
That's
because you
kind of
don't.
silly, Matt.
I
I've
got.
watched you talk many a time. I've
Because
listened to you.
All right. Hey guys.
because
I,
you don't let me finish my sentences. You can constantly cut me off.
I've said one sentence in response to your sentence. I've not cut you off.
hey
You cut me off in the middle of mine, though. That was neat.
hey guys. Hold on. Hey, Facade. Repeat your question and let Matt give a whole answer.
I'm done already. I stated what I wanted to state. In order for anything to exist, if in order to have an identity, which you already stated that you were not a pantheist, therefore you have a unique identity for your God that is separate than everything. Your God isn't everything, right? So you already agreed that that is your definition of God. God is not everything. God is not pantheist, right? So you must have a unique identity for that God, a way to distinguish it from things that are not God. In order for you to make such a distinction, you must rely on the absolute laws of logic. That was the end of my statement.
You're making an error, a mistake. The mistake is that you are assuming that the laws of logic are independent from the God that we believe in, and that therefore God is subject to those laws. That's not our position. So you're offering a straw man, not a steel man of our position.
So
So just want to contend. I'm not trying to make a steel man nor a straw man out of your argument. However, if you say that your God is not contingent upon the laws of logic, right? You must. Are you willing to dismiss the laws of logic in order to define your God?
I don't think you really understand the conversation we're trying to have.
I understand it fully, Matt. I've
I
been
don't
listening the
believe
whole time.
I don't believe so. You see, you seem to be categorizing God as one thing and the laws of logic as another. And then you're saying, as you attack my Christian worldview, which is ultimately your goal, you're saying that the laws of logic are independent from God, and therefore you're trying to set the laws of logic against God. You haven't grounded the universality of the laws of logic or what the reality is, or you haven't even demonstrated that your reasoning can have any grounding at all. You're just assuming certain validities and categories, and then what you're saying is that our God is subject to that. The law of identity is this universal, abstract, and necessary, and therefore God must be subject to it. And that's not our position. That's not what we're talking about either. I don't think you're really listening very well.
Your presupposition is that a God exists. My presupposition is that the laws of logic and reality exist. We both have our presuppositions coming into a conversation. I don't need your presupposition to make additional statements about the statement of reality in that we exist and the shared existence that we have. You claim that I need your God in order to do so. But by making your statement, all I have to do is make a statement to define your God as a necessary precondition of intelligibility by just inserting anything else I want into said conversation. All you've done is move the goalpost.
No, you have. So let's do that. Let's do that. You made a statement. You can assert any replacement for God, right? Cotton, a wad of cotton. Would you please demonstrate how a wad of cotton, is the necessary precondition for intelligibility?
Sure. In order for your God to exist, cotton must first exist. And I know this because cotton has revealed itself to be true. It, in fact, inspired the Bible that you believe in and the God that you believe in. It created the God. It's a being that exists on its own. It's self-intelligent and it's sufficiently capable of creating the universe and your God as it exists.
Wow.
Your turn.
So your arbitrary assertion commits a category error of what cotton is, and you give the characteristics to it. That's not that. So you're refuting yourself in your own argument. Look,
No.
Facade,
Hold it, Matt.
Facade,
No,
hold on, Facade,
that's a
Facade,
blatantly
Facade.
incorrect statement of what you just did. Don't
Dude,
miscategorize my argument and then
Hey.
try to pull it off.
Bye. I'm out of here. If you don't stop, you
No.
don't shut up, I'm out of here.
Okay, guys.
I called you on the carpet. You blew it. You made a mistake. You're rude. You don't listen. You
I
don't interact
didn't,
with what I'm saying.
Matt.
I'm done. I'll talk
Matt,
to Triple A. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Not because I can't handle you, but because you don't
you clearly
understand.
can't, Matt.
Guys,
You're
Why is it?
miscategorizing my argument. You misstated
Trip,
what I just
Trip,
stated.
hey guys,
Trip,
guys,
look,
guys,
you're
guys,
hostile. This is
guys.
supposed
Trip,
to be a nice conversation. Go away. Go away. I don't
I'm
want to
going
talk
to,
to you.
Matt. I'm
Okay.
going
Go
to, Matt.
away. I don't want to talk to
Okay,
you.
guys,
Go
guys.
That's
away.
clear. That's
Go
clear,
away.
Matt.
Go
And I'm
away.
going.
Go away.
Will you shut
Go
up for a second so
away.
I can
Bye
say
bye.
goodbye?
Bye bye. Go away.
Guys,
Go away.
please.
Okay,
Go away.
Matt. You're a child.
Please, guys.
Facade, you are not the one to be able to say what a child and child
Guys.
is not, because you don't have the universal grounding for what a
Alright.
category is. I'm
It's
the one who
cotton,
called you
Matt.
on your
I can just make up
arbitrary
anything I
assertions
want.
and the idea of asserting cotton as a
I can just
replacement for
make
God.
anything I want.
Hey, guys.
That's your definition of God.
Okay,
I can just
Trip,
insert
can you
whatever I
get rid
want
of him?
there.
Get rid of him.
Okay, hey guys.
Get rid of him. He is so illogical, and he's shamefully bad at this.
Okay.
He's one of the most ignorant, arrogant guys I've encountered as an atheist.
Okay.
Wow, that's impressive, Matt.
Okay. All right,
Yeah, it is.
I don't know if you've ever
So why
looked
don't
in
you
the
go
mirror.
away? Why don't you go away? Go away. I don't want to talk to you. Trip, get rid of him, or I'm gone in 1 minute.
Okay.
I'm happy to go, Matt. I just want to say
Go. Stop talking and get out.
Shut the fuck
Get out.
up so I
Get
can
out.
say goodbye to my
Did you guys
host.
start cussing? Bye. Go.
Okay, please, guys. All right.
Go.
What I wanted to say. So when he said
Josh.
that, when he said that cotton is the foundation for I'm sorry, the prerequisite
Trip,
for
I'm
God.
gonna drop just so you can talk to him. I don't
30
want to
seconds.
I don't want.
Get out of here.
Right.
Get out of here.
Matt,
Get out
let
of
me
here.
say goodbye and get the fuck out of your show.
Okay.
Stop cussing. You know what? Your diaper's filled? Come on.
Guys.
Do better than that. Go away.
Matt,
I see it, Facade.
shh.
Okay.
Go on.
I
Matt,
see it.
Matt, it was
Facade.
genuinely is a
Facade.
play.
Go
Matt,
away.
Guys.
Bye.
talk about fucking
Bye.
interrupting, dude. Okay,
Bye.
Matt.
Hey,
Let me just say goodbye, and I told you I was getting the fuck off.
Go. Bye. Go.
I'll catch you, man.
Okay, Triple A. Nice seeing you, Matt. Whether you hate me, whether you like, doesn't matter. It was really nice actually talking to you. I have watched you for a long time. I do respect you, whether you think that or not. It was a
Then treat me
pleasure.
like an
Oh,
adult, not like a
I,
child, like you just did.
dude, you talk about
All
fucking
right, all right, all
interrupting. You
right,
won't let
guys,
me get a
guys. All
word
right,
in.
nothing with the
I,
meta
I'm
discussion.
I'm done. I
Okay.
just wanted to say
All
thank
right.
you, and I appreciate it
All
either
right,
way.
bye,
Bye.
bye.
Have a great day, Matt. Hope you enjoy it. Hope he gave you a little something to think about, whether you think I'm a fucking ignorant moron or not.
Go
Have a
on,
great.
get out of
All right.
here.
So, all right.
Let me
Gosh.
just finish a sentence,
Okay. Back
dude.
to the
Jesus.
back to the discussion. Back to the discussion.
I'm out. Bye.
I'll see you inside. All right. Back to the discussion. Can you hear me, Matt? It's just you and I. Can you hear me? It's just us two. Can you hear me? Can you? Would you put your headphones back on? He's gone. He's gone. It's just you and I. Okay. All right.
Trip,
So what I was gonna
Triple A.
say.
Oh, sorry. Trip, sorry
Okay.
about that. You said this would be a nice casual conversation.
Yeah.
He was not that.
Oh,
He made
okay.
lots of mistakes. I called him out on it, and he just got hostile.
Okay.
When the atheists have done this before, when they try and say something like cotton or a potato or whatever it might be, can then be the necessary preconditions. And what they do is they screw up from that beginning because they don't recognize that what they're doing when they understand that category, they're assigning divine values to it, thereby violating their own law of identity of what something is. And their argument based on it doesn't work. And this guy doesn't know enough to know that. He should be a lot better.
Okay. So now,
It is that simple.
all right. So now, remember when I had talked about um how the prerequisite for God would be reality, right?
Yeah.
God could not be the foundation for reality. And then you said, I am by definition not talking about the Christian God.
I forget what the context was earlier
Right.
when
Okay.
I,
So we
yeah,
were talking
yeah,
about I guess the terminus, right? And
right,
we were talking. You were saying how God is the precondition for the logical absolutes and for reality.
right. If we define reality as, I
Uh
think,
huh.
and I'm trying to misrepresent you, is the space-time within which we exist. Is
Well,
that good enough?
okay, no, no. So, well, okay, this is difficult. All right,
Okay,
it's hard to explain. All right,
okay,
I'm a metaphysical naturalist. So
okay.
I do not appeal to anything outside of space time or anything outside of our physical reality as a cause for anything. However, I am willing to accept that there are things outside of that. There may be things that science and math could not explain, and those will also be real things. So when I say real things, it could just be our local presentation of space time, but I would include other things as well, like the supernatural, God, heaven or hell, any other angels, any of the things that are outside of those things. Now, I would say those
What?
are tho-
Sorry. Are you saying you hold to the possibility of the supernatural existing? You just don't. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
sure, it is possible in a sense. It wouldn't violate any logical absolute. So
Okay. So,
so when I say possibility, I'm talking about like a metaphysical possibility, which anything that isn't a contradiction would be
oh, okay,
possible in that sense.
okay, okay. That's really interesting. So
So
the
I
existence of
would.
God would be logically possible.
It depends on the type of God.
The
If you
Christian
so
Trinitarian God.
okay, well, so Christian Trinitarian God, I'm okay with that. However, if your God is by definition one who grounds reality, I think that is a contradiction. If he is grounding reality, he is part of reality.
Okay, okay, okay. So you're defining. Okay, the problem here, I think, is a definition is always the case. And I don't mean to speak down to you or nothing like that, but I think our problem is how we're defining reality. You're defining reality, including God, right? And I'm kind of not doing that in
Mhm.
that. I grant that if we define reality as whatever exists, then logically he has to be in that. Uh, but then we're just arguing of whether he is or is not in it.
So when you okay, so remember, reality is all real things.
Uh, yeah, I'm seeing a problem popping up in my head with that
Okay,
position. Let me see if I can formulate it. Can I try? Or
sure.
unless you want to get your thought out.
Well, sure. Well, I was gonna say reality is all real things. If God is causing something, He is interacting with reality, which means He is by definition part of reality. If
Yeah, that's
all real
yeah.
things would include that God, then He is part of reality.
But
So
then can
I was gonna say, my bad. Okay.
sorry.
So the set is reality. God would be a particular of the set.
Hmm.
If there is no set, God could not be a particular of that set.
Yeah, I would say that that's a conflation of the category of God and the category of what exists, what's reality. In a
Okay.
Christian perspective, what we call reality is the physical universe, energy, mass, universe, galaxies, galaxy
Hmm.
clusters, all those things in there. And that none of that existed from eternity ago, that it had a beginning, which physics and astrophysics seems to suggest. We can get into the logic of it and the evidence for it. So therefore, at a beginning. But you're saying, I'm trying to represent you honestly and
Hmm.
fairly. So I'm assuming what you're saying is, okay, even if the universe had an existence or came into existence, the thing that caused it to come into existence is still part of the reality of which the universe would exist,
Hmm. And if there
right?
was an outside the universe, as long as that outside of the universe is real, and it would be real if I'm saying there's outside of it, that would
Okay.
also be part of reality. And the
Let me,
laws of logic would also apply to those things. Outside the universe, if you're outside the universe, you are outside the universe. And you cannot be outside the universe and not outside the universe.
you could not be, okay, I'm gonna get into that. I know what you're saying. Um, So okay, let's assume from what we were talking about that the universe had a beginning. Do you grant that it had a beginning?
Um, no.
So- oh man, I just want to just
Okay,
okay, so
okay. There is the beginning of our local presentation of space time. So this
okay,
space that we see, this space time, the thing
all
that
right,
is expanding at about
okay.
73 kilometers per second per megaparsec, that had a beginning.
Really, I didn't know it was megaparsec. Really? Okay. Anyway, we could discuss some stuff. I have a theory on something about why things are
Okay.
moving instantly. But anyway, that gets another thing. So sorry, I got distracted. I like talking about this kind of stuff just for fun. So the universe, the space-time continuum we're aware of had a beginning, right?
Hmm.
All right. So the reality that existed before it caused it. Was the cause personal or impersonal?
Um, I don't think it was personal. I don't have any evidence to think it was personal. But if it was, it would have no bearing on my argument. Personal and impersonal, it would still be real.
Well,
The laws of logic would apply.
I think I got you in a headlock here. I
Okay.
don't know. Okay. So I'm going to try this. All right. Okay. Can I try and trap you?
Okay, sure.
All right. So the cause of the universe is it's either personal or it's impersonal, right?
Yep,
If we only have two possibilities and one's negated, the other is necessarily true.
I agree.
Disjunctive syllogism. Okay. So if we can negate one, the other has to be true. We don't have to prove it. It's proven by definition.
Right, right.
All right.
You don't need to prove what is logically necessary.
Good.
I agree.
So let's take the impersonal cause. Whatever the impersonal cause of the universe was, it had to have the necessary and sufficient conditions to bring the universe into existence.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Man, I'm not talking to you, man. You're easy to talk to. Um, so necessary, because a lot of guys go, no.
Okay.
So if it had the necessary and if it was impersonal and had the necessary and sufficient conditions, then the event of the created universe would have necessarily had to automatically happen.
You said if it was impersonal, the event of the universe would necessarily have to automatically happen? Why would it have to be automatic?
Because whenever the conditions that are necessary and sufficient occur in an impersonal situation, the result is necessarily automatic. Let me give an illustration. A
Okay.
flat surface, a small rock, we're going to use it as a fulcrum. There's a
Mm-hmm.
big rock next to it, and we have a non-bendable bar, flat surface, normal gravity. And let's just say that in order to move the big rock, we need 20 pounds of downward force or more. Whenever those conditions are met, the result is automatic.
What do you mean by automatic?
I guess that's probably not the right word. Uh, the results are necessarily going to happen whenever this necessary and sufficient conditions. So 10
Oh
pounds of
yes,
force.
that's a deterministic universe. I
Okay,
agree.
good, good. So then if whatever existed eternally, it's either the case it existed eternally or not eternally, right? That's logically necessary. So we could just work with one at a time. If it existed eternally, and it had the necessary sufficient conditions, it doesn't make a decision, it's just impersonal, then the cause or the effect had to be eternal in the past.
It could be eternal in the past.
It
There
would,
is no logical contradiction. It's something. So if you're talking about like a cause was began a cause started another cause was started another cause, right?
yeah.
So that violates no law of logic, nor does it violate any law of physics. I am
Well,
okay
let's
with
just,
that.
there's philosophical problems with it, but nevertheless,
Okay.
if the thing that began the universe was eternal and it also naturally existed, having the necessary and sufficient conditions, then the creation of the universe would have been an infinite amount of time ago. But that's not the case. The universe is not infinitely old.
No, I disagree.
Oh, it's logically necessary.
It is. It
Yes,
is
it
not.
is.
So okay. So
Yes, it is.
all right. So so the universe. So infinity is not a number or and even an amount. Like it's a description of a set. So think about this. Like any so how many numbers are there?
Lots.
Right. But there's an infinite number of numbers,
Twice as
aren't there?
many as half.
Okay. But there's an infinite number. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you give me two numbers that are infinitely far apart?
Yeah. The first one and the, oh, I want to see last one, but
There is no first
because there is
number.
no, yeah, right,
There's no first number, there's no last number, right? But
right. Of
any two
whole numbers.
numbers, once you
Right.
define those numbers, they are not infinitely far apart. So whatever started the universe, that caused it happened at a point.
Yeah.
That point is a fixed amount of time away from where we are now. So while the
That's,
plane of existence could be infinite, no particular cause on the plane of existence would be infinitely far away from anything else.
I think you're confusing the actual infinite with the potential infinite. I think. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're saying. That's why I'm saying that.
Well,
So if the thing that existed infinitely for an infinite amount of time before the universe existed
mhm.
is the cause, then if it had the necessary and sufficient conditions natural to it infinitely for an infinite amount of time, then the result or the creation of the universe would have been an infinite amount of time ago, which is
No.
logically problematic.
So there is no infinite time ago because infinite is not a quantity. It's a description of a set. There's 100 years ago. There's 20 billion years ago. There's not an infinite ago.
That's a potential infinite.
It'd be like saying you weigh infinite pounds. That makes no sense. Like pounds is going to be some particular quantity, and infinity is not that. Saying you weigh infinity pounds or that would be like saying you weigh apple pounds. Like you're not saying anything. Infinity is the description of the set. It's not a number. So nothing can be infinitely far away. Far away. It is gonna as long as it's some particular distance, and I'm a particular distance. If I'm at a particular point in space, and something else is any other particular point in space, it is a finite distance, and you could quantify it,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's
that.
not infinite.
Yeah, that's a potential infinite. Yeah, once you
But
begin counting something, right?
would it? But don't you think that God is infinite or
Yes,
eternal?
yes.
So wouldn't he? let's say I accept your argument about if the universe is infinite, then the cause of the universe would have to have happened at an infinity ago,
Uh-huh.
or whatever, or you have these infinite regression. Now, if God is infinite, wouldn't he fall into the same problem? Because there was a particular point in time where God started creating the earth. Wouldn't we never get there?
That's a fair question, actually. It's one of the questions I pondered, and I don't have an answer to. It's not a defeater. There are certain paradoxes with the idea of what it means to be infinite, outside of time, whatever that means. And I've wondered, what was God doing for eternity ago? He in the Christian Trinity, he's fellowshipping and having this relationship, this experience with the sufficient in himself. And then within his own essence, he decided to create, which he had decreed an infinitely long time ago. I'm just using these terms. And so, how is it then that there was any time related to his essence? And at that point, we get into, is time a property of his nature or not a property of his nature? And at that point, we have even more problems. We have to define what time is. And I just think we just get into a black hole of rabbit holes we can't go down. We can't solve anything. And that's my honest assessment of. I've thought about it many times. I don't have an answer. I don't see any refutations for it. I just say there are just things we just can't answer because it's so beyond us. That's where I'm at. I thought
Okay.
I got it once, and then I heard a in my head, and then I quit because it wasn't working right after that.
Well, we've got to come to the end of our time. I told you I
Okay,
want to have you on for an hour and a half. I don't want to take up
I can
more.
do a little bit longer if you want. It's up to you.
Okay. Well, let's 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. I had because I wanted to have you back on again, and
Okay.
I wanted to discuss this specifically.
Okay.
How how would you determine that Jesus is God? How would you determine that anything is God? Well, Jesus
Self-revelation.
is God. How did you determine? How would you determine that?
I don't. I would discover it.
What would you do to discover that? Like, what would be the process?
At this point, I'm not sure what to say because
Hmm.
there's two roads to go down. One is an intellectual one supported out of scripture. The
Okay.
other is when he came to me when I was an atheist and I knew it was him and it was him. I don't offer that as proof, but it was the singularly most dramatic event of my entire life. And and I don't offer it. See, when I say that, you can't refute that. And
Right.
I'm not
Yeah. It's
offering
the
it as
personal
that.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't
That's
offer as
strong.
proof, and I don't offer it as a defeater to you and say, see, I'm not doing that. I'm just saying the reason I can only tell you the reason I know he's God is because I encountered him and it was the way it was. Not offering as proof, okay?
Hmm.
So aside from that, we could then discuss the other aspects, which is revelation out of scripture and things like that.
Okay. Here- Here's a problem that I have, not with what you said, but what I hear with a lot of Christians, because
Okay.
we have people on the show that previous guests, previous apologists, and they'll point to things like the resurrection, the virgin birth, the ascension
Mhm.
as proof or as evidence that he is God. And I will grant those things. And I will say, yeah, we let's say I grant that he was born of a virgin and I grant that he rose from the dead in 3 days. How would that demonstrate that he is God?
Oh, it wouldn't, because you
Okay,
could
well, we're in
say
agreement.
it wouldn't logically necessitate it,
It does not.
because you could have another being who is doing these things to him. It doesn't mean he's God.
Right.
The question then becomes, what does he say about himself?
Let's say he claims to be God and then he do those things. How do I know that what he's saying is true?
That's a good question. How do you know what he's saying is true? The biblical answer is you can't unless God opens your heart and mind to receive him. Okay, John 1, 12 and 13, Acts 16, 14, Luke 24, 39, or 40, 44,
That
45.
was a super reformed response, Matt.
That's a reformed response. It's a biblical one. He
Okay.
has to grant that you come to Christ. God the Father grants you come to him, John 6, 65, and he grants that you have faith, Philippians 1, 29. And so God has to grant that to you. You can't because God's not granted it to you.
All right. So I'll try to.
You're in my backyard now.
Okay.
Theology, okay? I'm not going to beat you up with it. It's all right.
on that note, what did you grant that? So I don't believe. So obviously God has not revealed it to me.
Correct.
Wouldn't you grant that it is rational for me to be an atheist?
Uh, No, because the Bible also says that you suppress the truth of God in your unrighteousness, Romans 1:18 through and the rest. So it's not rational. And in part,
Hmm.
because our previous discussion, which I'm going to very politely say, I think was a good conversation. I don't think you grounded your stuff very well. You probably might say the same thing about
Okay.
me. And that's part of our polite discussion. But I would say that you've not, I would say, they've not grounded your positions without presupposing the necessity of God. We could discuss it some more. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. Um, and so I would say that's where the suppression of your in your unrighteousness, your sin, is caused this upon you. That's what I would say.
Okay.
I'm not offending you. I'm not trying to
Yeah, I
be
know.
judgmental.
I understand. We're coming straight from Romans 1 here. Like I
All
understand.
right, I'm not trying
Okay.
to judge you. I like you. Come to my house. We'll eat steaks, smoke cigars, talk smack about facade. Okay.
Okay. So no, yeah. All right. So if I am, you talk about me suppressing the truth.
Yeah,
How could I suppress the truth if it was never available to me?
it's
God did
available.
not reveal it. So I don't even need to suppress it. There'd be nothing to suppress. I cannot grasp it. So
Now
that would make it rational for me to be an atheist.
that presuppose then rationale is what determines your truth and understanding of God. The Bible never says that.
So being rational is
Rational, right?
how I assess the evidence or any sort of experience that God could give me. So so being rational is in itself the evidence, but it's a prerequisite for the evidence. Like if I'm not rational, I cannot
No.
properly assess it.
Evidence is an abstraction that becomes valid or invalid depending on a presupposition around it. Okay, let me explain. So
Okay.
my wife, who passed away, but my wife, okay, I'm in Idaho, and I know what state you're in. I'm not trying to
DC.
dox you. DC?
Hmm.
Okay, you're in DC. All right, so next door neighbor in your house, where you are, there's a break-in and there's footprints in the mud, and there's footprints inside the house. It's ransacked. There's footprints leading out the front door. The footprints are evidence that a perpetrator entered through the door. I mean, entered through the window
Right.
because it fits. If I said to you, yeah, those footprints are proof I love my wife, you'd go, well, I thought Matt was smart, but there's obviously something loose. He's not, it makes no sense because it's not evidence then. It's a phenomena. So something becomes evidential when it fits a presuppositional world view, question, theory, idea.
Okay. Man, I have so much I want to say there.
Come on,
No,
bring
no,
it on. It's
I can't.
okay.
I can't. I told my wife I
I
was
can
gonna
stay
spend some.
longer.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. I told my wife I was gonna spend some time with her before it gets too late.
Who cares about your wife? Come on, let's get it.
Yeah.
Don't tell her I said that.
Yeah. I care. Right. But anyway, man, I wanna have you back on. I
Sure.
wanna dive deeper into like just the nature of evidence.
Good.
And yeah, let's I'll shoot you I'll shoot you an email and I'll shoot you an email soon, and we can
Good.
pick up exactly where we left off because I want
Okay.
to tackle that.
All right.
But yeah, man, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I know it got heated. Still had fun. Um,
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on. And like I said, I used to be a fan, right?
You still
I
should
mean,
be. You still should
right.
be because I'm just wonderful.
Yeah.
Look, I just want to say thanks. I had a good time talking to you. I really did. And You're polite. You're not obstreperous. You're not rude. You're not accusatory. Not demanding. It's just a delight to meet someone like that. We disagree. We can disagree agreeably, unlike some people. And so I get tired of. I just get. All these years. I've been this for 46 years. I get tired of that facade attitude. I just get tired of it. But look, you're ever in my area, man, you got a place to stay.
I appreciate it, man. All
All
right,
right.
guys, tuning out. I will
Okay.
catch you guys next week.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right, brother.